Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rebecca with Red True Crime, and we have an update to basically the story of Liam King. So, before I get into that, just remember Liam King, 7 years old, nonverbal autistic, was missing for 3 days. Think on that before I come back. Again, hello, everyone. It's Rebecca with Red True Crime. Thank you again for tuning in. So, I already have a comment on here. Is there news? There is some news, but not the news you would be expecting. So, but let me recap the case itself. So in Asheboro, North Carolina, it's a very rural part of Randolph County, and it's about 30 minutes from Greensboro. A 7-year-old boy named Liam King was left alone in the front yard of a friend of the family's house. He wandered off. 3 days later, he was found deceased next to a pond. He was 528 feet from where he ran off from. It took them 3 days to find him. Now, when they found him, investigators made it clear there was no foul play. That's fine, all well and good. But the article that came out today, I'm happy they're doing this, but in the grand scheme of things, things need to be looked into further because to date, no one has even been charged, even with neglect, um, anything regarding Liam's situation. So here's what has come out today. There is a program in Asheboro or in Randolph County called the Guardian Project. And it's a program aimed at protecting individuals who are at risk of wandering, including children with cognitive disabilities and developmental conditions. Okay. Well, they're changing it to an acronym. Let me find it how I don't want to say it incorrectly. Life Saving Identification and Monitoring Youth Watch, which spells Liam, named after Liam King. So, Seabolt keeps talking about how, we're never gonna forget about him, we're never gonna do this, we're never gonna do that, which is all well and good. But and however, somebody has to be held responsible for why he was left alone in the first place. The child could not speak. He was what we call nonverbal. He could not tell you what was in his mind. He couldn't tell you what he was experiencing or what was around him. He couldn't do any of that because he is nonverbal. And in my opinion, one of the worst situations you can be in when you have an autistic child. Now, I have an autistic son. He'll be 26 in a couple months, and he's very verbal. I know what's going on in his mind. He can tell me how he feels, what he thinks, what he wants. I get that with him. But I've been around so many children that cannot communicate, except for maybe sign language. But they can't be left alone. Children that are unable to communicate are very prone to running, to fleeing, to just wandering because they have no impulse control. And this was the situation with Liam King. It had been documented multiple times where he had gotten loose. I shouldn't say loose, but he had been left unattended, and neighbors found him, police found him, and brought him home. Now, this last time he gets left alone in the front yard. People are inside the house, the door is closed, they can't even see him. He wanders off, he ends up deceased. Don't sit there and tell me that someone's not responsible for that. Somebody has to be held responsible for that. Who was supposed to be watching him? That is how this works. If one of my kids got, when they were small, got out of the house and got hit by a car, they would come after me for that because I'm not watching my child. You've got a child who's disabled, you got a child who can't communicate, and you leave him alone to his own devices, and he ends up dead? Somebody has to be responsible for that. Somebody has to be. Call me crazy, but somebody has to be held responsible. So, I mean, I think it's all well and good that Randolph County Sheriff wants to rename the project after Liam and all that great stuff. Wonderful. What about the consequences of leaving him alone in the yard? Who's gonna face that? You can't just let that go. You tell me what you think. If you think I'm overreacting, I'll take that questions, but I'm telling you right now, I've heard stories that the mom was there, then I heard the mom was not there, just the boyfriend had him, all that stuff. Somebody is responsible. Somebody is. And they need to be charged with neglect, with, I don't know, delinquency, whatever you wanna call it. They left that kid alone. Nobody had eyes on him, and he wandered 528 feet away and died. He died. Just think about this. 7 years old, can't communicate, doesn't know where he is, doesn't understand what's going on, and he died. And no one's being charged with that? I'm not saying they need to go to prison. I'm not saying they need to be charged with murder. Oh god, and a comment here. I just heard that the search for the 4-year-old in Alabama has been called off. No word yet if they found him. Thank you for that, letting me know that. But Liam King is deceased because no one was watching him. Just let that sink in. You have everybody who has a child, has a toddler, has a young child. Do you turn your kids loose like that? I mean, my rule of thumb was when my kids were coming up, and even my mom's when we were coming up, if we're quiet, we're up to something we shouldn't be doing. So my thing is, why would you put a child by themselves outside, especially one that cannot communicate? Anything could have happened. A dog could have come after him. He could have seen a snake. Somebody could have grabbed him. Anything could have happened. So, and who's to say that he didn't wander, that he wasn't grabbed and then put there? I don't know. They're saying no foul play. Fine, whatever. But he is gone. Somebody needs to be held responsible. Somebody has to, because this was completely preventable. Completely preventable. It'd be one thing. This was a one-time thing. Like he got you know, they weren't watching and he wandered out, and that had never happened before. Fine, mistakes happen. I understand that, but this was a mistake that kept happening multiple times. Document cases of where he was found and returned multiple times, not once, not twice, like 3 to 5 times. This has happened before. This happened. Why is no one being held responsible? That's all I have. Why? Please someone answer that for me, because that's a life that should never have been taken. That is a life that should never have been lost. That is a life that should have been preserved. Cases like this, I guess because I have a child of my own with autism. I guess cases like this hit me harder. I can't be as unbiased. I'm totally biased. I'm not gonna lie. But just common sense as a parent. You don't leave your children unattended, outside especially. You just don't do that. So, like I said, you all just let me know if I'm doing too much, if I'm saying too much, if I'm too emotional about this. Great that they're renaming the program after Liam King. More people should be involved. This should be something that if you have a child that history of wandering or is even on the autism spectrum, they should have some type of registration service to keep tabs on them no matter where you are in the world. They should do that. I'm all behind that. But the fact of the matter is Randolph County has not done their job and have not investigated those people thoroughly and has not charged somebody with why he cause and effect. You don't watch him, he ends up dead. You're in trouble. Simple as that. Just like I said, I'm not saying it's murder. I'm just saying it is definitely neglect. And somebody needs to feel the consequences of that. And if they have done that and they just not made it public, okay, I apologize for my anger. But I would think that if someone like the boyfriend or the mom or both got charged with some type of neglect issue with this, we would have heard about it. So I truly think they needed to do more about that. and investigate further and make somebody feel the consequences because that is a preventable death. Very preventable death. Okay. So, I apologize for my fervor. I'm gonna hop off here, but, it's sad. So thank you for, tuning in to Red True Crime. I might be back later, I don't know, but, have a great start to 2026, and, thank you for tuning in. Bye.